Hello again, Indian Creek 8th grade social studies students. This is Mrs. Stirk once again, and this time I am here to talk about after America joined the Allies in World War I. What were the results of that? So while we are going through this video, think about, would the Allies have won if the United States hadn't gotten involved? And also, continuing from the last video, should the United States have declared war? Was that the right decision, or should they have stayed neutral? Maybe after you go through this video you think, the Allies, they didn't need the United States. We should have just kept our nose out of it. What were we thinking? Or maybe you think, wow, that was pretty bad. Yeah, they definitely should have entered the war. It was a good thing too, or else we'd all be speaking German. So think about, what is your opinion, and can you defend it with evidence? Let's look at what happened when the USA first entered the war. They declared war on April 2nd, 1917, and at this point the Allies are desperate. They have no supplies, they have no food. The French, actually some of the French troops refused to continue fighting after they had a failed offensive, and they were like, we cannot work in these terrible conditions, which is a sort of theme with France. You'll find out about that in World War II later. The British people are starving because, it's on an island and they can't get any supplies in or out because the U-boats keep sinking the ships. In fact, 1 out of every 4 boats that left the British ports was sunk. So what did the United States do about this? Well, the American Navy takes 2 steps. First, the USA says we will find and destroy the German submarines. And second, they use this convoy method. A convoy is a team of ships that they used in a special formation to escort the supply ships, and it worked really, really effectively. So as the United States was entering the war, Russia was getting out. We have the Russian withdrawal from World War I. And what had happened was, just like I said that revolution wasn't going to last very long. The Bolsheviks, who were the communists, overthrew the Russian democratic government in March 1917. And Vladimir Lenin, who is this guy right here, he takes the Russians out of the war. He says, we have to focus on the mother Russia. We have to set up communist government. We do not have time for this mess over here. We have to focus on the Russians and the Russian people. So, in order to keep Germany out of their hair, well, actually, he doesn't have very much hair, but to keep them out of the way, they sign a treaty with Germany and give them Poland and Ukraine and some other territories, and that allows the Germans then to move into the Western Front in France, which was not good for the Allies. So Germany takes this opportunity to really put on the full attack against the Allies. Their goal is twofold: to get control of Amiens and then Paris. They are able to push the Allies back to within a 50-mile radius of Paris. And whereas for the longest time it seemed like there was this stalemate between the Central Powers and the Allied powers, now all of a sudden, after the Russian withdrawal, it looks like the Germans might win. So here come the American troops in the war. We have the AEF, which stands for the American Expeditionary Force, and they were the American troops in Europe led by General Pershing. Who is this guy, General Pershing? Now, the American Expeditionary Force saw its first serious fighting in early June 1918, where they helped turn back a German offensive at the Chateau Thierry and at the Marne River. They faced almost a wall of German machine gun fire, and it was very, very difficult, but by the middle of July, the Allies had stopped the German offensive. Then next we have the Battle of Argonne Forest, where the Allies struggled and struggled and finally broke through the German enemy lines. Here, the tables have turned. Suddenly, Germany is now invaded by the Allies instead of them invading somewhere else. Well, at this point, the Germans realize that they are done. They have very little chance of winning. The Americans are now backing the Allies, and the Germans don't have that new enthusiasm and excitement that the Americans brought with them whenever they joined the war. It really boosted the morale of the Allies. They are running out of food and supplies now themselves, and so they decide to ask for an armistice. An armistice is an agreement to end the fighting. Now, they asked for it on October 4th, 1918, and it was signed on November 11th. The conditions were that Germany had to accept the plans for peace, that there would be no more fighting, and that they would leave Belgium and France. As a result of all of this, the German people became pretty unhappy, and actually political unrest erupted in Germany right during this time. They overthrew the government and forced the German Kaiser to step down from his throne, and they set up a new government that was a republic. That means that it was run by the people. And this new government that was set up considered these conditions and accepted. So then we have peace, finally. Starting on November 11th, 1918, the Germans withdrew to the Baltic Sea. All the land forces went west of the Rhine River. And that is the end of our little saga about how the Americans went from being neutral to then joining the Allies in World War I. I hope that you enjoyed this video.